Jenny. I'm just going to share my screen. I hope everybody is able to see the screen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So the presentation we are going to be making today is about our work in the space, and I will invite Anima to start the presentation so I can go through the technical details thereafter. Yeah, Anima.
Thanks, Akshay. Hi, everyone. So as Arpita said, I am parent of Pranav, who's almost 21 years old, and he's been on the autism spectrum. Now, I'm going to start with a story. Like, why did we start Sense Kaleidoscopes, or how did we start Sense Kaleidoscopes? That's a question we normally get. So I'm just going to start and tell you about the number of years that I went from one place to another, trying to find a solution or an answer to the problems that my son was facing. Now, Pranav was a really, really cute, bubbly, social character who had difficulties with language processing. His comprehension problems were quite huge, and I was not even aware of the depth of the problems. I just knew that he is struggling to understand what I'm saying or what's happening around him some of the time, even in spite of the fact that he's very social and he wants to be around people. Now, I moved from one organization to the other. I tried mainstream schools, special schools, everything under the sun, just to find out where there would be a place for my son. There had to be a place for him because he was so bright and so loving. It couldn't be that such a child had absolutely no place in our society. How could it be? That drove me to just keep searching for answers. And in one of the special schools that my son was part of, I met Akshayee, who is a consultant. She'd just come over from Glasgow, and she had this talk, and at that time, a few of his parents were listening. And what she said really struck home with me, because she was talking about the power of art to sort of transform this journey of autism for the children who are inclined towards art. Of course, I'm not making it a universal statement. So when that happened, when she started talking about it and the possibilities of art, someone who is not associated with art in any way like myself, it was a total eye-opener. I did not know that art could be like this, that it could draw out a child, it could make him or her reach their full potential. I did not realize that. And for me, that was the beginning of the change, the internal change that I was going through. And after meeting Akshay, for some reason we clicked. And then one fine day we decided, you know, what we're doing, what I'm doing, I was very dissatisfied by. And she was saying there has to be a place where children like Pranav can come and we can work with their strengths. We don't care what their weaknesses are. We know there are weaknesses, but we will help them deal with that, but we are going to focus on their strengths. So that was the vision with which we started this organization. And that's how, I mean, crazily enough, two women who have no background of running an organization, or maybe we didn't even know how difficult it was to get funding, finding a space. We just jumped into it. And now 8 years later, we have success stories to bring in front of you, just because we believed in the power of autism. We believed that these neurodiverse brains can totally surprise us, they can do whatever, you know, they set their mind to, if only we provide them with the right environment. That is Sense Kaleidoscopes, and that is how our journey began. And so let's start.
Anima,
Yeah.
if you could just change to slideshow, we'll have a full screen view.
Okay, Akshay would have
of
to
the
do,
PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that for some strange
Okay,
reason.
thank you.
It's not working for me. Just give me a second. I might need to shift my screen. Bear with me.
Yeah.
I hope that's better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so thank you, Anima. Thank you very much for that. I think the journey began with obviously both of us trying to find answers and trying to do something that was close to our hearts and use our strengths and kind of get the vision that we had in our mind going. and hence the need for this niche space, for this niche area. Obviously, my background was from the arts, which was something that I realized nobody was doing in India. And so it became very important for me to kind of start working in a space that would allow me the freedom to do things in how I had worked in Scotland. So I think we started with a holistic view. The question that we always wanted, or kind of the burning desire or the burning question for us was, how are we going to look at education? How are we going to look at employment? Is financial independence possible at all? To what levels, if it is? And what about living independently? So I think Anima would agree that for both of us, the entirety or the holisticness of this vision was what drove us to this space. When we started the space, I started going into a lot of deep dive research kind of a process, started working with mentors because I was not very sure how to do the work that I was doing in Scotland and India, because the kids that I was working, or actually the young adults that I was working with in Scotland, we were primarily working with young adults who had an interest in the arts. And we were a team of artists who were interacting with them, helping them build their portfolios and move to a university program or move to a diploma program. So actually go into a vocational training space, do something more defined in that vocational training space and take off from there. And when I came to India, I realized that I was dealing with kids who were young adults who were 16, 14, 15, 18, 19, 25, even, who had experienced not much about the art space. They were not even exposed to it. And there was one single common thread that was, I think, tying all of them together, which was lag in their comprehension, which means that they were not really understanding everything that was happening in their environment, and that loop was not being closed. So I think we went into a deep dive because we wanted to look at the holistic solution. The first breakthrough for us is the student Ayush, and Ayush came to me when he was very young. He was 16, and I think what he could do in school was at its dead end. There were no solutions for him, as parents were looking at what next. And when we did the arts assessment, we realized that he has an inclination to the arts. What you're looking at on the screen are artworks that have been created by Ayush. And I'm also going to try and see if I can show you some more pieces. You can see these works. So this boy, who has such a fantastic eye for detail, was given some really basic skill sets in the classroom. We started working with the program. We started kind of collaborating with him to understand what we could do to enable this kind of art. So this didn't happen in one day or in one session. What essentially took us off from here was this. What we did in the space was we worked with the visual arts, we worked with the print arts, we worked with sculpture and pottery, we did theater, the design and animation and culinary arts pieces of this puzzle is something that we're still working on. So I want to make that very clear. But what was unique about our program was that it is a structured process, very, very well defined. It is child-centric. And the reason I say this is because all of our programs were guided, literally built in collaboration with our students. And there is a unique delivery model. So we started putting a very definitive process in place, which helped us understand, okay, what we are going to do. I'm going to take you through with a small peek of this process because it's quite extensive. And like I said, it was built to key in a lot of details because that is what this mind likes. This mind loves to look at details. This mind loves structured details and organization. And that's where we started. The basic arts curriculum essentially has 17 subjects and it's still growing. There are subjects like Warli, 2D, 3D shapes, there's form, there's color. These are the ABCs of art. Anybody who wants to be a professional artist will have to understand these ABCs. And so that is the basic program. What I'm trying to break down for you guys is the first, just one subject here called as the form subject, which talks about different kinds of lines. Now, if you want to be an artist, you need to understand what are the different types of lines that exist. And if you don't understand that, then you won't be able to manipulate those lines or create art. So we started with different kinds of lines, as you can see, like horizontal, vertical, wavy, broken, jagged, spiral lines, which then eventually moved into the development of each and every lesson plan. Now, what you're looking at over here is an example of 293 lesson plans that have been developed by us around this one module, this one subject of understanding horizontal lines. Why did we go into such a great amount of detail? What is the need for doing it in this kind of a simplistic, organized manner? Well, I think the answer is self-explanatory. One thing we understand when we are dealing with the mind of autism is that it's not exposed. The challenge over here is to ensure that you're not assuming that this mind will learn, but to actually go ahead and put everything out there, expose the child to just everything without any assumptions or any questions about the process. So that is why we went into this process. We put everything out there. We also knew that we had to work with generalization. And hence it became more necessary for us to bring in this kind of variety and this kind of detailing to even one aspect of art. So our curriculum essentially is that detailed and structured. Now, what I have over here is also Zentangles. I'm sure many of you would have seen Zentangles. It's very, very common to look at this kind of art. This also has various designs. So we were looking at larger numbers over here, but I don't think the numbers actually phase us. I think what is really what we are passionate about is to take those ideas and break them down and make them accessible to autism or to the neurodiverse mind. So that was where all of this was happening. Today, during COVID, we came at a very difficult, I guess, junction where we realized that, during lockdown, most of our students were home and there was a sudden stop. And in this space, my kids are used to working for 8 hours every day. We do a Monday to Saturday program. So it's a very packed, action-packed day. And suddenly there was this lull, which is why we as an organization also understand what kind of pros and cons are attached with a process of a lockdown or isolation. We actually drove into the process of putting this entire program online. So right now, we are in the process of taking this entire arts program and putting it online so that we can also make it accessible to more and more people across the world, not just in India. So that's been our effort during the COVID times. Now, a very common question that comes to me is, okay, Akshay, this program is so structured. It's almost robotic. I mean, you've taken everything and you've simplified the details. So aren't you killing the creativity of the individual if you're going to do it in such a manner? And my answer to that is just please look at the visuals in front of you and tell me that they look like each other. There's absolutely no way that we can kill the intrinsic artistic style of a human being because that is a very, very strong and dominating form. What we are doing is providing the basic toolkit. Now, how you're going to use that toolkit is not being controlled by us. So no, we do not actually kill any intrinsic styles. We encourage individual stylization and designs or creativity of the students. I think like what I'm going to do is take you through a couple of our students so that you can see a lot more of their works. You can see the different kind of styles that have emerged. There is Adarsh, she's 25 years old today. And these are his works. If you meet Adarsh, I don't think he will even make eye contact with you, but he has this fascinating ability to make portraits. And I don't know how to give a definitive scientific analysis as to why he's not making eye contact, but he likes to do portraits. But like I said, we work with their obsessions. We look at what kind of pulls their attention, and then we start working on those ideas. What you're looking at over here are curated themes, and these are lino prints that the kids do in the space as well. So again, we use different mediums for them to explore with those ideas. So you can see that a lot of media development has happened with his work. This is Kalash. Oops, I'm sorry. This is Kalash, another very, very fascinating artist who works with a lot of details. And this, by the way, this is not in my program. What you are looking at, the web-like structures in the background that he has created, has not been taught to him. We have done the line program, yes, but this is something that he came with. He almost brought this into the space, and I was really fascinated. I think it's a fantastic contemporary style. So we also, even this is something. So again, I want to say that there are kids who have this intrinsic ability to kind of identify with art. They have this intrinsic ability to understand art in a way that your mind or my mind may not be able to perceive. And that is another hook, I think, that we use and we kind of take forward, which is why we keep saying we use what interests them. It's not what we want them to do. These are other works by Kalash. Sakshi is somebody who actually found it very difficult with fine motor and still finds it very difficult. It's not able to even read and write. And she moved into the print department. So not many people in India actually understand that the print arts is also a form of art, and a very evolved form of art if we use it in the right way. And these are mostly self-portraits of Sakshi that she has worked with, and she's really, really good at this process. There are YouTube videos that you can go and watch on our channel where you will see her working independently with this process and creating these pieces of art. Now, I think I want to talk a little bit about what actually happened when we were working with this process and what was the dilemma or what were the concerns that we were dealing with. We started realizing that, okay, we wanted to create a vocation. We wanted to do a sustainable vocational career pathway. Now, what we realized is that there were a lot of other skill sets that were not in place. When I keep talking about the cognitive delay or the comprehension delay, I think I would put the onus on the fact that the primary, secondary, and higher education did not do what it needed to do, which is why there was a comprehension lag. Now, something like that also affects how this journey is taken in future. What kind of independence we can build with the artist when we are looking at a career pathway, when we are looking at how he's going to present his art in front of an audience. How is he going to impress upon others that this is his form of communication? There were all these questions that were really bothering us. And I would like to invite Anima again, because I think that that's a space that she would like to give her 2 bits in. Please, Anima.
Yeah, sure. So yes, like Akshay said, it's not enough to do the training. We also need to ensure that this training results in sustainable livelihood, and even beyond that, in a productive life, which can be lived as independently as possible. So all of these elements have to come in when we talk about training and then what happens after training. So our main challenge when it came to training was that it's not that the children cannot pick up the skills. It is that the underlying comprehension gap is making it very difficult for them to then take those skills and then run with it. Like, they would need support, even though they have the skills. They need support to continue as artists. So that is the dilemma that we're talking about here and that we were trying to address. So for that, we have also we are in the process of developing an academic curriculum that we believe will close these gaps that we have had very good results with, and that we have seen, especially with the younger children, when we start them on this curriculum, we see like really, really great results straight off the bat, because it's a very intensive program. It takes into account the fact that we need to build in abstract concepts, that we need to build in generalization, that we need a certain kind of repetitiveness to make sure that a concept is taught correctly. We need to come at a concept from different directions. All of those things are taken into account, and we are child driven. How the child learns determines how we teach. This is not about us trying to get the child to learn something and then tick off the box. Okay, so now 10 concepts learned this week. We don't care about the timeline as much as we care about how much the child can retain and use. We don't need, for instance, a child to learn about the Mughal era if he is not interested. We don't care about that. But the child has to know how to do, let's say, functional math sums, because if he has to go out and buy something for himself, he should be able to figure out, how do I do this? How do I, what are the different modes in which I can pay? And if there is, buy one, get one free, what should I choose? Should I buy this set? Should I buy? So we have to build in all sorts of things that make real world living a possibility, instead of just saying my son has now passed grade 10th. There is really no point in that if it cannot be applied to the real world. The academic learning is only useful if it makes the life of the child easy in some way or the other. If it doesn't, if it is too stressful to go the regular conventional route, we should take a step back and see what is this child trying to tell us. So that's how we started this curriculum. Akshay, can you run that video?
Yeah. What I'm running on the background is what we actually do in the classroom and how we work with this setup. We have smart classrooms, which I think many of you would have seen. There are these huge interactive boards that are put into a classroom where a child can go use his hands, they are touch screens. And as we all know, technology is something that actually most of our kids are quite evolved at dealing with and also very interested. So we work with technology. Again, this is something that is done very extensively in Scotland, where I was working, and I was watching a lot of setups that were functioning like this and picking up something that would actually really help them kind of work with these concepts in a more intricate manner. What you're looking at is where we actually, again, simplified. So I guess the key has always for us been, how do we simplify things? How do we ensure that there is a clear assimilation of a concept and which can move into application as well. A lot of our work, even in the academic space, is very visual oriented. We know they are visual learners. We also use all of the different senses. And so if we are taking one concept, then we run it in different formats of learning or teaching and absorption. I think there are many research studies in which they say that children with neurodiverse minds are learning more visually or auditorily or through the sense of smell or through touch and feel, and not necessarily in the way that a neurotypical mind learns, and hence, or kinesthetic learners even. So then it became mandatory for us to start looking at what are the different learning mechanisms that are there in this individual child that we can actually harness. I think a lot of the modern approach to education, or the IB or the IGCSE curriculums, are also looking into this these days. So we kind of adapted those models, and that is where our academic curriculum kind of sits. Here are the students that have been part of our academic curriculum, and they have made leaps and bounds with their comprehension and with also their learning and where they are today. Rohit is a student who actually started off with us at the age of 12, and his academic program had been stopped because of his behaviors, and that was the single reason for which they said that they cannot train him, that he's untrainable. What we learned with our collaboration with Rohit was that when we started working on his comprehension, when we started helping him understand why the environment functions in a particular manner, why these changes are happening in this environment, and helping him build coping mechanisms to transit through these changes, we automatically saw that he actually evolved to become somebody who could adapt very effectively and assimilate in this environment. And I guess that's our aim with any child. Changes are difficult, I think, for all of us. But what makes it easy for us to go through these changes is the fact that we can comprehend things, and then we are able to cope with it in various ways to manage those challenges. So here you can see also a very distinct difference, I think, in his artworks. His artworks are very narrative based. They are very story oriented. Each of his artworks will have a story behind, and he's also very capable of actually standing out there and telling you what it is about, which is a very beautiful thing. And I think that is the kind of combination me and Anima are striving for, or we want to make happen with every individual that we come across, or at least who's touched with us, because we want them to be able to put out their story in their own words, to do things in a comprehensive manner. I am introducing Pranav, and this is Anima's son, and he has been with us as well. I think I will allow Anima to speak a little more about him. I will talk about his art, and then I will pass it back to her. Pranav is our contemporary modern artist. He used to do these shapes himself. Again, Pranav was not exposed as much as I think Anima would have liked him to be exposed when he was younger, but he would start dabbling with all these shapes, and he would love to pick up his colors, and he was very, very intrinsically kind of cued into what he wanted to do visually. So here are some of the pieces that I think he has created, and a lot of it is very, very independent, very driven by himself, application based, again, taking all of the things that he had learned with us and then putting them and learning about composition and space, and about different artists who come from the contemporary. This I think is one of my favorite series that he has created, so intricate. Anima, can I pass it back to you, please?
Sure. A lot of parents will be wondering, how do you actually figure out whether your child is inclined towards the art? I think the answer to that would be just observation. You just have to give the child various tools. He may like something, she may like something else. It doesn't matter. You really have to observe and see which way the child's inclination is taking that child. And it could be that you have to expose this child to a wide variety of things before you can figure out what exactly is happening. Here, in my case, I had no clue this guy could do any of these things, because he would walk around and everywhere he would go, he would, even on my walls, there would be triangles and circles literally everywhere. And I used to like, what are you doing? And once when Akshay came home, she said, but this is good stuff. I said, these are just triangles and circles. What do you mean it's good? I mean, why can't he draw like whatever mountains? What, like, why is it only triangles and circles? So she said, but that's the way he sees the world, and that's the way he wants to express himself. And order, pattern, structure is so important to Pranav, that his artwork reflects that. If you see any of his pieces, you won't find a teda line or anything like that anywhere, because he's a perfectionist. He wants it to be the way he's envisioning, the way he wants it to be. Now he can learn about form, structure, layout, everything, as Akshay had said, but without the intrinsic desire to express himself in a particular way very strongly throughout, this program would not have been successful. So when we take in students also, we want to see that art brings them joy, that dabbling in all of this makes them happier and calmer, and their behaviors, if any, get reduced, because this is their passion. This is the zone that they want to be in. We have to identify that and then work on the child's skills later. The interest has to come from the child for anything. I would keep saying that, because as parents, and I have done this myself, I have tried to fit him into a conventional mold when he was younger. And it backfired, because Pranav's very strong-willed. He showed me very clearly, I'm not going to do this. You can do what you want. I'm not going to do this. So the point is, we have to listen to them, and we really, really have to observe, because otherwise we would never know what it is that they're trying to tell us. And if anything that we do is child-driven, it will be sustainable. He or she will have the motivation to continue with that program. If it is not child-driven, we will fail. And the programs cannot work in the long run if we are just putting our interests on the child instead of the other way around. So that's it. That's for my bit here.
Another artist, Shashwat, who actually has an inclination for music, and he's musically inclined, and he started talking with a mic, and that's when he actually so it's a beautiful story that his mother tells us, that when he wasn't talking, and when you put a mic in his hand and he started talking. So he works, again, as you can see, this is very, very clear about how we use their obsession.
Obsessed, yeah.
Yeah, you can see that in their artworks. I mean, mics is something that he's so motivated by. He's going to do anything if you give him a mic. So instead of actually saying, no, I'm not going to work with your obsession, instead of saying, no, this is a bad thing, no, you're stimming and this is not working. Well, I guess we need to also understand that this is the thing that makes them extremely calm. This is also the thing that takes them to their happy place. Albeit that if it's not going to find a productive pathway, it may not necessarily be good for them. But if we can use that productively, then why not? And that, I think, is the philosophy or the bedrock of this program. So I think we have taken everybody through.
Oh,
pretty much
Akshay,
everything.
you have to mention that Usha brought one, and her daughter brought one of Shashwat's paintings, because they were so impressed with the fact that he's so interested in music. And she invited us to bring him over, and they sang. What did they sing? They sang Hari Om Hari.
So many songs. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was so cool that she was so supportive of the fact that this child finds this wonderful release and comfort in music. He can't sing, but music is what brings about a different level in him, in his life. So yeah, I just wanted to put that in, because when somebody's so passionate about a certain thing, then the rest of the world will soon recognize it. And I thought that was a very wonderful way in which she supported the interest of one child who's sitting somewhere in Bangalore. That was very nice.
Yeah, and the nicest thing was that she actually thought of it when she came to Bangalore. She connected with us and she planned it all around him. She's planned time. She said she put aside time to meet all of us and to spend time with Shashwat and to talk to him about his work, which was so wonderful to see, I think. And that was possible because we actually, our artworks and our artists have really done us proud. They took their works have touched so many lives and so many artists. We were invited to the Kochi Biennale when somebody walked in and looked at the works and they said, oh my God, this has got to be out there. This is so wonderful. So we went to the Kochi Biennale, which is one of the hugest art festivals that happens in Kochi in between December and Feb. And there are extinguished artists, like they're completely elegant artists coming into those shows. That's where our students were there. And that journey also took us to Paris. So we have also taken our artworks and our artists to Paris, and we have showcased their works over there. So that is the kind of branding. I think the power of actually pushing the passion can bring about when done in a way that actually is going in sync with what the child wants. So we run two different spaces. One is Sense Kaleidoscopes. I am the operations head at Sense Kaleidoscopes, which is purely an academy where we do the training, we do the teaching, we do the conceptualization of curriculums, and Anima helps with Sense and also Blue Elephant, where she is fundraising to make this effort possible, because we also have students who cannot support themselves, and we wanted to make this accessible to everybody. She also goes in to help the artists get branded, be positioned in the right way. Recently, she got the artworks of the kids out in lifestyle. I'm not very sure if any of you have seen it, but their artworks were taken in the home decor line, the women's clothing line, the smiley line, which is something in collaboration with the UK. And so that is the kind of like branding, sales, marketing effort that comes in. We are very, very small though, I must say. And I think we have consciously kept it small because we are two people trying to do a lot in between the two of us, but that's been our journey until now. I will now move this to the last phase, where, because we started the entire presentation about being holistic in nature, and how do we see this in the holistic sense is something that we will be coming to, where we talk about the Autism Artistic Collective that we are very, very keen to build. Anima, I'll hand over to you, please.
Yeah, sure. So like Akshay says, we start with training and we get to a point where we can do sales of artworks, merchandising, bring in streams of revenue for our artists. And then the final stage is this particular collective. So the collective idea is basically the idea of having all our artists resident in a community along with their families. And they will continue with training, those artists who need to continue with the training, or they will have independent artist studios, which they can work out of. And we continue to sell their artworks and merchandise using different platforms, and then bring in other facilities like organic farming, farm-to-table restaurant, holistic healing area, and so on. So our idea is to bring all of this together under one roof. So we would have all of the facilities that I mentioned, and residential facilities for the artists themselves, then for their families as well. This we see as a solution, because we don't think that once the child has finished learning and then you put him out in the real world, he can survive without some measure of support. So we want the community itself to be the support, because every parent will ask, after me, what's going to happen to my child? If this is a parent-driven community, if every parent looks at every other child as manifestations of my child, then the chances that when one parent passes, others will take the lead and ensure that the other child is also taken care of, that is much larger. So we want to create a large family-style community where you can see your young artists continue to be productive, because without being productive, without having a dignified life, there is really no point in even envisioning something like this. We don't want a space where this person is just kept occupied. We want our artists to continue to learn and grow and thrive and discover all the beauty that there is in life, but in a protected environment. The reason we need a protected environment, unfortunately, is because of the way things are in India right now. We know that this is not going to change substantially in 10 years. But if we start early with our younger children, we know that we can make enough of a change that the level of self-sustainability will go up dramatically. For now, this is the solution that we envision. This is the solution that we actually welcome all parents to comment on, or if they would like to be part of it, just reach out to us. This is the way forward for us, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That was so wonderful. I must admit here that I have never been to an art gallery before, but just going through your presentation made me feel like I was in one. And this level of detail, I mean, each and every, art here is a masterpiece in itself. What I saw was there was no pattern. I think it was different with every child. Every artist had their own vision, their own, perception of how they see the world and how they want to present it to us. It's really amazing. Um, so
Thank you, Sujan.
art is used as an early intervention tool in many schools, especially when the child is young, right? um, what kind of effect does art have on children with autism, and does it change uh, when they become adults? How is the transition? How does it happen? What effect does art have?
I think very, very clear and straightforward answer to this is once we understand the nature of art, art essentially means you're using your hands productively. Yeah. And, and, and if we understand the basics of healing, we know that if we use our hands productively, if you have to use your hands productively, you have to be cued in. You have this eye-hand coordination that we keep talking about. And also the eye-hand coordination is very, very powerful to what it can do to your mind. Okay, that's the science behind it. So if you are going to be able to empower a child from a younger age with the arts, and when I say the arts, I think it has to be explorative arts. I don't mean the regimented arts, to be very honest, but just play. Play with art and to explore whether it is sculpture, whether it is printing, whether it is theater,
Visual
whether it is
arts.
music, whether it is dance, and it really does not matter, because over here you're going to be helping the child connect with something that will really involve him or her and ensure that they are going to only gain from it. So unfortunately, in India, we don't have a lot of those possibilities from what I understood, because when I was interacting with a lot of parents, they all came to me with just one thing. They said, Akshay, nobody's doing arts in the way that you're talking about with the kids. It's very regimented. And it's true, because most of the kids, when they came to me, I said, okay, draw something. They would draw mountains and they would draw a tree and some water and birds in the R. So that is not necessary. That is not the arts, not necessary. It's just not what we understand as art. It's more explorative and play oriented, and that when you do it in that way, then the byproduct of it is what we understand as therapy. Okay, we are very careful when we present ourselves, and then I think both me and Anima say that we are into professional artist training. We are not therapists. And also my education, my qualification was that of how do you move the arts into the educational sector. So we are very clear over there. And primarily we also come from the faith that it's like saying, if you travel, a lot of people, when you are very stressed and you go to the doctors just take a break, go travel. Why do they say that? They say that because the byproduct of traveling is that you are going to de-stress. It's therapeutic. Similarly, arts are therapeutic. That is irrefutable.
Nature.
Yes, that is just the nature of that particular activity. So yes, I think there's a tremendous amount of impact that can be created by the arts. To be very honest, in the UK, they use the arts very, very intrinsically for teaching methodologies, concepts which are very abstract, and many parents struggle when their younger children are not able to understand concepts like photosynthesis, for example. They're not able to understand concepts of fractions, for example, in the math. How do you understand these things? The arts actually aid in the learning of these concepts, and it's used extensively in the UK in the educational system. We also do that. That is where our work is also going. So it's not that the arts has to be just about play. It can be used in so many different ways to empower a child. So yes, there is a huge amount of application that we haven't actually explored.
So if a child has an inclination towards art, as a parent, what are the first steps that they need to take to encourage that inclination at home?
I think like Anima, let them scribble on the walls.
Okay.
Do not punish them for it. I think you can
I did
paint
yell.
your
I
walls,
did yell.
or
I'm not saying
don't, or even better, get the child to paint the walls. That's a skill. Okay. I think, I guess, everything is a blessing in disguise if you see it in that way. When we talk about enriching a child or empowering a child, then we have to be very careful about how we perceive and what we do with their actions. Every child is naturally somewhere connected to the arts. Like you will see children who become good dancers, they're always jumping about and they don't want to sit in one place. And then we go like, okay, sit, come on, sit. No, you don't need to sit, there can be mobile learning as well. So I guess as a parent to become very intuitive about these things, as a parent to be in touch with these kind of facets of their own child and to keep doing different things. And today it's much, much more easier, to be honest. It was very difficult maybe a few years ago, but Sujani, today, go to YouTube. You can access people across the globe and you can talk to like-minded people, like-minded parents who have children who have those flares and learn from their journeys, interact with everybody on social media and see what more you can do. So I guess, yes, we can.
There was this quote I remember reading somewhere that every child is a natural born artist, and then the education system beats it out of the child eventually. So in whichever way, I feel that small children, if you see, they play in the mud, they like to do all sorts of sensory activities. This is all part of their development. And this is the stuff that we shouldn't be stopping, like getting messy, climbing trees, playing with all sorts of crazy things. All of those things, I think in an urban lifestyle, at least, we are distancing our children from them. And I think we should not. That's one of the things I would recommend.
Right. There is one question here from a parent. She says, my son is obsessed with cars from childhood. He's 23 now. He talks about cars, draws different car models, buys miniature cars, magazines, play cars. He has done animation course.
Interested in doing car modeling only. So what I would revert back is saying you've done the animation course. I mean, there is a lot of scope in the animation course to go further into detailing and working with cars. So if he has done the program, then why are we not pursuing that pathway of actually strengthening his skill set in that area and getting him projects around it? If he likes to draw car models, then what kind of a level is his drawing at? What is being done to improve his skill set? What is being done around his obsessions to give it more productive and more defined pathways? I guess that would be a question that I would put out over there that they need to think about and maybe come back with more information with which I can help. I don't have enough data here, is what I would say.
Okay. I was rather intrigued by the term outsider artist. It's there on your website. I've never heard that term before. So could you explain what you mean by outsider artist and how you work with them and help them, express themselves freely through art?
Okay, the term outsider artist was coined many years ago. I think maybe 25, 30, 35, I'm not very sure. I'm very bad with dates also. So that term essentially came about by disabled artists. They put out that term, and we also need to bear in mind very clearly that access was very, very difficult, even globally. Okay, for those artists, they couldn't go through a regular arts program. They couldn't really, it was not inclusive in nature. So they were interested in the arts, but they did not get the hand holding that they would have required. But they pursued their passion for arts. And they created this group of which is called the outsider artists, coining it, stating that, okay, this is who we are. You need to know that we have had a much more difficult journey or a process, but we are still here and we're standing with what we believe, so that's where the outsider artist terminology comes from. And so on and so forth. It also then started evolving into a lot of other people who were not disabled necessarily, but did not go through a formal training. That is how it has evolved to today. Okay, there are neurotypicals who are part of this program as well, who may not have necessarily had the access to go through a formal training, but are passionate about the arts. So that's
not
how
mainstream artists. They have not, yeah.
So that's how this community is growing. So that's why we call them the outsider artists. And I guess the training of it is like how I told you. I mean, what we have done is very, very autism specific, right? Because all of my case studies, my entire research, my entire work was done with only people on the spectrum. That's also where I was qualified. So it's very, very centered to that. But we have also realized that if you actually put an organized process in place, then it would help the other kids as well.
With another question, my son is 10
Yeah.
years old. He's very interested in drawing, again, vehicles and objects and images he sees on videos. We are looking at improving his skills. They're located in Coimbatore. So is there any guidance that you can, or a direction that you can help the parent with?
Shamina, I can see the comment. Thank you for the question. Like we said, we are going to be putting out the online program, which I think will be very, very helpful to you because you will be able to expose him to the basic skills and you will be able to further his skill set. So please keep in touch with us and look out for Blue Elephant. That is the tag under which we will be putting this program out. So please do try it, see how it works out. And we also are going to have individual consultant sessions if you are struggling with it. So we are at the present moment trying to do what we can through the online model to give access to many more like you. So yes, we will be coming out with that program. It should help you.
One more thing about the online model. When she says online model, it is actually pretty much mimicking what we do in the school. And also what you get in the online model is a series of videos that you can follow. They're very, very simple to follow videos. And you can go through these videos at the pace of your child. The child dictates the pace. The parent can sit with the child initially, but believe me, the child will be able to do this independently as time passes because it's been designed that way. So you have these, specifically designed videos that go, they're just catered to, the autism brain. It will just, the kids will magically be able to relate to it. And then there are assignments that you have to submit. And then like Akshay said, there can be independent one-on-one consultations if there are, specific queries and so on. So it's a complete comprehensive program, at least the basic level that we plan to put out fairly shortly. So it is not just about showing you pictures and asking you to draw like those pictures. We take you through it. We handhold you through it. So I think it will be very useful.
And I'm just curious to know the art pieces that you shared with us. How long does an individual normally take? Giving him a piece of paper till the finished product.
The detailed
so intricate
pieces,
and so detailing, with all the lines and the different lines. I have never thought about the line structure in detail as what you shared today.
That's like again, that's their perspective, right? That's the way they are seeing things. And the autistic mind is about details, So yeah, I think they take a lot of time. Trust me, when I see them going at it, then I'm so like, okay, I hope it's not going to like really tire him out too much. But they really go at it, and it can be anywhere in between 180 hours to 260 hours to do one piece.
Okay, it depends on the child as well, on the individual artist, and it depends on the process. The print process is much quicker. The hand drawing is going to take a lot of time, and some artists draw really quickly, and like our caricature artists used to do it like this, in minutes. But the more intricate involved pieces that you see are really time intensive. But then, when you see it, it's all worth it, all the time and effort that those children are putting into it.
Okay, so all this, they decide what has to go on the art piece. So it's completely their imagination and their form of expression.
I wouldn't say completely imagine. So when the reason why we go and curate and we use, and again, we are limiting ourselves to their obsessions. So we are putting ourselves in a particular box when we are working with the kids, right? So we need to get to know the children very well. We build a bond with them. We understand what is motivating them. And then we start putting those ideas in front of them so that we know that they'll be more easily acceptable. See, if I walk in with an idea that the child does not have any liking to, like, for example, the child who likes cars, and I tell him, come on, let's draw birds. He'll be like, okay, bye. I don't want to have anything to do with you. So it won't work. So I guess that kind of an understanding is very, very important.
But we could teach that child to draw cars in, 1,000 different ways.
Correct.
That's what we bring to the table, because the child is motivated to draw cars.
Yes.
He is not going to be motivated to do birds, no matter, even if you want to stand upside down, it's not going to change his motivation levels over there. To have motivation, you need to increase comprehension. For everything to be sustainable, you need to increase comprehension. For decision making, you need to increase comprehension.
It's a metacognitive activity.
Yes. So when
it's
you
not
see
going to happen.
Artwork of someone like Rohit, he has a dream. He wants to show the world, I want a girlfriend. This was my dream. So he's drawn that picture of him inside his head. You see the girl with the plaid.
Yeah.
Yes.
The front and back. Yeah.
Because yes,
that
he
was
wants
his
to have a
dream.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I was wondering what it was about.
Yeah.
No, he came to me and he said, look, I've had this dream. And in this dream, this girl was facing this way with her back to me and with her face to me. And he was surprised with that dream, as you can imagine. But what actually is happening in his head is he's a surreal thinker.
Yeah.
And like how Pranav is contemporary modern, Kalash is contemporary modern. I mean, we didn't teach them to be this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's their intrinsic style. So Rohit is a surreal thinker, and he would have these kind of dreams. Even now, we actually have a mood diary and we have a dream diary, in which every day he sits and then he does all these notes of what he's dreaming and how his feelings are moving. So we have different techniques, Sujani. We are using them quite effectively to help the children understand what they are doing. So our hope is also that yes, we have lost time. I don't think I'm going to run away from that, because I think there is no running away from the reality. Yes, we have lost time, but whatever we are doing today, every little step that we take today, am I doing it consciously in a way that I can build on some level of comprehension somewhere? Okay, I know it's a tough journey. Trust me. I think both of us know it very well. We have run through something like 70, 80 children in this past 8 years. So we know, and we work very intricately. It's a deep dive. We are not like touching the surface and walking away.
Correct.
That's not how we work in the organization. That's not our model. So we know it is tough, but I also will say at the same point in time, it's possible. It is possible. Values and methodologies to fit the needs of the kids.
Very, very interesting. Another point was, when the child is growing up, right, as it is, autism has so many challenges. And when they grow into adult and teenage years, I think it comes in, various forms. It really hits them. Anxiety, tantrums, behavioral issues, and even some of them really struggle with social skills, right? And you were earlier talking about coping mechanisms. Because it's not going to go away, it's going to stay, but they learn to deal with some of the issues and patterns. So how do you help them? How do you help with the art, with using art as a medium, especially with with young adults? How do they cope with the stress and anxiety that happens with age?
You see, I mean, considering that their cognition is at that level, the chances of becoming anxious is much more higher, isn't it? Because if I don't understand what is happening in my environment, if you're sick or if I'm sick and we don't know why we are sick, you have a nagging pain, but you just don't know why it is happening, and nobody is able to help you with it. How would you feel? So I think that is literally the situation of most of our kids. They have a pain, they have a discomfort, they are not able to communicate, they're there. So the anxiety levels are super high. And that is why, like, everybody talks about behaviors or aggression, and I keep saying, no, it's a reactive aggression. Because it's not like it's happening in isolation. Of course, when we listen, then sometimes, if you're not paying attention to the details, and it becomes really difficult to pay attention to all of the details when you're dealing with an adult. I'm not going to deny that. But there is a root cause, there is a trigger, and that is why you're seeing that meltdown or that tantrum happening. Now, if we want to effectively, again, we come back to metacognition. What is metacognition? I'm thinking about my thought patterns, I'm thinking about my actions and what I'm doing with it. Now, if I don't have the ability to do that, then I'm just doing. And when I'm just doing, then I'm getting into all of these, these problems. Like I'm just walking without actually thinking about where I'm walking, I'm going to fall, right? And then I fell. I've been really upset that I fell. All right, which is why that becomes more important. I think what we need to understand is that if we want to deal with anxiety, and if you are dealing with a cognition problem, if you're dealing with a lower comprehension, of course you're going to be dealing with the peak levels of anxiety, which comes along with what you just mentioned, the behaviors, the tantrums, the meltdowns. Then you are left with very few devices. I will be very honest. You are left with restructuring the environment. And when I say environment, I don't mean just the physical space. I mean the people in that space as well. How those people are going to function around this individual. What are the activities? What is the schedule? I think some excellent work on this has been done by AFA as well. If you look at their modeling as well, that also works in that format. You adapt and redesign your environment to fit the needs of the child, hence keep them calm. Do everything that you can to keep them calm. And I guess that's one of the sole top strategies that I guess anybody uses to deal with something like that. We've told most of them we don't have them.
Yeah,
so I think somebody else also asked, where is the organization? We are based out of Bangalore, in Kalyan Nagar.
Is the school open now?
Yes.
How the split? Yeah, the split is that the arts program, we take entries from 12 and above. For part-time programs for 12 and above, and full-time programs for 14 and above.
14 and above.
And for the academic department, which starts from grade 1 and preschool, if we need to cover the gaps, then we start from the age 6 or 7. That's how we do it.
Okay. So you help them to get to a professional level in terms of their art, right? Yeah. And you also mentioned that you also help in selling the artwork. But is there any other vocational opportunities available? Because a lot of parents who may not be able to attend school at SK, right? But they know that their child or individual is very talented with art in whatever form they're doing. What opportunities are available today? What can they explore?
So with art, there are a lot of opportunities. But the thing that we need to get clear is that we need to get the artist to a certain level of competency before the artworks are sought after. Like if you saw during the presentation, our artworks are not sold at low prices. They're quite expensive. And the reason that is there is not only because of the quality of the artworks, but because we go and put a lot of effort into branding and into, saying that, this like lifestyle. If you go to any mall now, they're playing the videos. You will see the children, you'll see Akshayee, you'll see me, you'll see our school, you'll see all of those things, because they're playing that in every lifestyle shop all over the country. And the reason you can command that kind of a presence and that kind of a publicity is because of the quality of the artwork. If something is done right, people will come just because of the fact that it's that good, right? Now, for artworks, primarily we do sales and merchandising. So merchandising is something that is a great opportunity for bringing in revenue. Of course, you need lots of volume. You cannot just merchandise with like 100 t-shirts or something like that. It wouldn't work. So if somebody is pursuing art, then it has to be with the idea that this art has to be, the art and the artist has to be branded and marketed and then presented to the world in a certain way. Because without that, it might not work. There is a lot of effort that we need to do. And if people are really good at Instagram, and which I'm really bad at, I'll tell you straight off. So if people are good with Insta and they can sell their stuff on Insta, that's another avenue. But first, make sure that the works are of a particular quality. And then you can collaborate with any number of people. There are so many platforms that can now pick up your artwork, merchandise, and just give you the returns. You don't even have to do that. So those are opportunities that can be available.
Okay.
So yes, the online program, I think, is the game changer over here, because we realize that with our physical limitations, this is all we can do within the school, and it is autism, so we can't work with large numbers. And yet it seems like such a heartbreaking thing to think that we've put in so much effort and we can't reach the children that we want to reach, because there are so many children who could benefit from this. And at least, both of us, our life's goal is to just help as many children as we can, because for whatever reason, this has been our journey. She has chosen this journey. In my case, the journey was thrust upon me, to put it in one way, but I've learned such a lot from it. I mean, I've learned so much from my son. I've learned the unconditional nature of his love and his ability to accept others just as they are. And I've learned that from him, and I'm applying it wherever I go. So now for me, there is no judgment, there is no question, there is no wondering whether this child has the ability to do anything. No, if you accept in all the diversity, if you can accept 100%, then you start seeing changes, both in the child and in yourself, professionally, personally, everything. So yeah, that's one lesson that I hope everybody can make use of.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akshayee and Anima. It was really great having you both here. So much of learning personally for me, and I'm sure for all the parents that have joined us today. And we'll also, we have recorded the program. We will share it on our YouTube channel. It is very inspiring, and just to hear about the work that you do and just going through some of these fantastic images, the masterpieces created by your students. It's amazing. So Arpita, over to you.
Thank you so much for showing the path to so many parents, Maybe they were clueless before this program, the child scribbles or the child just draws, as you say, patterns. So they didn't know. Now they know where to go, what to do about it, at least discuss with you people. So, I mean, splendid work by your students also. Very, very beautiful. I mean, each one is a masterpiece indeed. And beautiful takeaway line also you have given, like autism doesn't define me, I define autism. I think each parent can relate to that. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for both of you for coming. And
thank you so much for having us.